My name is Christina Coe, and this is my presentation for my Public Safety Telecommunication course on domestic abuse. I chose this topic because it is definitely something personal for me. As a victim of domestic abuse, I didn't know I was, and that's because I didn't look for the signs. And so I felt that this was a good topic because it was something personal and something that I recently have learned about. What I'm hoping that you will learn from this presentation is what domestic abuse is, because I myself did not know the full extent of domestic abuse, when the history of domestic abuse. So when domestic abuse became what it was. And that sounds callous and what have you, but the history of it, because how did it come to domestic abuse? Thankfully, the statistics, and statistics are numbers, but at the same time, they inform us on, this is happening a lot. So we should probably be aware. The different types, because as I said before, there are several different types of domestic abuse. It's not just one minor thing. There's a broad spectrum of different types of domestic abuse. The signs, if you see it, you can report it. If you're in an abusive relationship, you know how to identify it and then how you report that. Some of the history on domestic abuse that I myself was inclined to learn is prior to the 20th century, there was no policing on whether or not a woman was quote unquote being wife beaten. In the earlier 18th and 19th century, a man was allowed to punish his wife however he saw fit if she wasn't doing her wifely duties. Thankfully, by the 1920s, the term wife beating was made illegal in the United States. Thankfully, by the 1920s. A more modern attention to domestic violence began in the 1970s with the women's movement. So during the women's movement, they were focusing on feminism, women's rights, and they were not okay with women currently being beaten by their husbands. So that gained a lot of attention. It wasn't until 1973 that they officially used the term domestic violence. Before then, it was in fact wife beating. And by the 1990s, domestic violence was finally being addressed to where it was an offense to where you could be arrested and charged criminally. So it was great for the 90s. So domestic abuse is not just domestic abuse. There are several terms for it. It's domestic violence or intimate partner violence. It basically is behavioral patterns that consist of power and control over a partner. It's any kind of power from any kind of person that takes control over you and your well-being, is essentially what that means. So some statistics for domestic abuse. And these are a lot of quotes, and I will be cited at the end of where I got this from. But I have to read this off of the paper because 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men aged 18 and older in the United States have been victim of a severe physical violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime. To me, that's astronomical. Women ages 18 to 24 and 25 to 34 generally experience the highest rates of intimate partner violence. You're basically saying that nearly 20 people a minute are being physically abused by their intimate partner in the United States. And I did the math on my calculator, and this is true. And you're talking about how many calls of domestic violence. And on average, it's 20,000 phone calls nationwide. And intimate partner violence is 15% of all violent crimes. Those statistics alone are what's frightening. And they add to the fact that that is a very small number as well, because there are so many people who don't know what actual domestic violence is. It's more than just the physical. And we're going to get into that moving forward in the presentation. As you see, there are so many types of domestic abuse. There's physical, sexual, economic, and psychological. All of these are things that we don't think about. They're things that we don't necessarily feel are happening. On top of that, abuse can happen to anyone. It's not just a boyfriend and a girlfriend. It's not just a parent and a child. There is actual abuse happening to people that are of a certain age, elders, people with disabilities, a lot of people that don't have a lot of money, that are of poverty line, and people with dementia, people that can't defend themselves as well. Physical abuse is the intentional act of causing bodily harm. Intentional being the key word. You are intentionally hurting someone physically. Whatever it is, you're doing it because you want to, with a purpose. And most of the time, if you're in a physically abusive relationship, you are hiding these marks and what is happening to you. And unfortunately, a lot of the times it will include objects. It might not be a baseball bat, but they could throw something at you. Whatever it may be, it could include the objects. Other examples of physical abuse are they will abandon you. They'll abandon you somewhere that you don't know about. Like you'll be out with somebody and they'll take you to a place that you're not familiar with and they'll just leave you there. It'll affect your physical care. So they won't let you do your makeup. They won't let you dress right. They'll have you wear baggier clothes. They'll keep you away from your friends and family, people that you care about. They'll keep you secluded. And then they cause you harm in a physical way. They'll kick you, punch you, bite you, pull your hair, anything that physically endangers you, whether that's locking you out of your house or locking you in your house. Sexual abuse. This is a very touchy topic for me, but we will continue on. So there are different types of ways that you can notice sexual abuse. And the problem is with an intimate partner, you might not necessarily understand that it's happening to you. Because there is emotions involved. You might not feel that it is what it is. However, if your partner is forcing you to have sex with them when you're not necessarily in the right frame of mind, whether you're tired or emotional or what have you. If they are forcing you and you're not enjoying it, regardless of if you're in a relationship or not, then it is considered sexual abuse. If they control how you dress, whether this be they want you to dress more provocatively or they want you to dress in clothes that you don't feel comfortable in, whether it's they don't want you to show any skin, that is another form of sexual abuse. If they make you feel like you have to have sex with them, that's if they make you feel bad for not being physically affectionate towards them, that is another way of making you feel bad for not having sex with them. Um, if they try to give you an STD, as far as they don't want to use protection, and you are aware of the fact that they have an STD, then that is them trying to give you an STD. I personally have not been through that, but if they don't want to use a condom and you know they do, in fact, have an STD, then that is them trying to give you one and force you into a relationship with them, as well as if they're refusing to use protection so that you could possibly get pregnant or get an STD. That is a form of sexual abuse. Economic abuse, if they control your money, it's defined as when one intimate partner has control over the other's economic resources. So if you have to rely on them for money, if you can't financially support yourself because they're not allowing you to be in a job that you can make money to financially support yourself, or they just won't let you work. If they restrict your money, that is your money from you, that is a form of economic abuse, and that is something that you need to be aware of because you might not know that they're doing it, but they could be doing it. Other signs of domestic abuse. So, if you know somebody that could possibly be a victim of domestic abuse, some of the signs they might show are they begin to act out of character. If they were somebody that liked to go out and now they don't want to go out. The partner is in constant contact. Like if they are constantly on their phone because their partner will nonstop text them at work or when they're in an outing with you. They don't have money on hand. If they can only spend a certain amount of money and they have to ask permission to do so. If they're constantly saying they don't want to do things because it will make their partner unhappy, therefore they want to make their partner happy. They're missing out on work, school, or social gatherings. If they're missing out, on work, school, or social gatherings, examples might be they couldn't show for work one day because they were being physically abused, so they couldn't show up because they would have a bruise on them. Or if they no longer want to hang out, even though they used to always hang out. Changing their appearance. So changing their appearance to the way that their partner might like. Maybe they used to dress a certain way, but now they're dressing a different way because their partner doesn't like them to dress the way they used to. These are all signs that that person might be being, physically, emotionally, or economically abused. All right, so domestic abuse and the LGBTQ community. I have several friends in the LGBTQ community that have, been in somewhat of abusive relationships. Not all of them, but I have had a couple. One of my best friends, unfortunately, has been involved in abusive relationships. So some of the things that they do are, yes, they will threaten to out you to your friends and family. This happens when you are in a sexual relationship with somebody that wants control over you, and just because your partner is of the same sex, they will use that power against you. They will basically give up your biggest secret to your family as a way of threatening you to do what they want you to do. They will tell you no one will help you due to your sexual preference orientation. That's not seen so much anymore today with how things have progressed, but it is seen because your partner might say that no one will feel bad for you because of your sexual preference and orientation. I hope that's not true anymore. They make excuses because of sexual orientation. So they might make excuses because, oh, I am in a relationship of the same sex, as number 4 says. So it's not as bad because I'm a man hitting a man, I'm a woman hitting a woman, I'm a trans hitting a trans. It doesn't matter. That's not the case. I think the same way of a straight woman hitting a straight man. Violence is violence. It should not happen. That is all I'm going to say about it. That being said, you can definitely hear things in the call, such as when the 911 operator picks up the call, she hears that it's a child. She hears a panic. She knows that there's alcohol involved, that this isn't the first incident, that there are other children involved, and the call is disconnected. And you could definitely hear the devastation in the responder, the 911 dispatcher's voice when she picks up this call and the call is disconnected. She does the best that she can, and I think that this video was very important because she's dealing with such a intense phone call. Things to do when you're being abused. Some things to do when you're being abused and if you want to get out are you can have a backup plan. You can do it safely. You could take your time. You could start by hiding a set of car keys. You can pack a bag so with all of your important information, your license, birth certificate, anything that you think is important to you, you could do it gradually. You need to be prepared when you call the police because when you're making that call, know that that is when you want to get out. You need to get out. And have a safe place to go and know how to get there. So you definitely want to make sure that you're prepared if you're trying to get out of an abusive relationship. If you're getting to the point where you need to get out and it needs to be done in this way, there are people you can call to help you. What you should do if you think that there is anybody that is dealing with domestic abuse. Sometimes our intuition is off, but sometimes it is dead on. If you think something is wrong, ask if something is wrong. Talk to them. If there is something that you think is bothering you about the way that they're acting, the way that you feel, then you need to talk to them specifically about what it is that you think is wrong. But the huge thing is listen. Listen, listen, listen. Listen carefully. Listen to keywords. They may not be telling you the whole truth, so you need to listen. Let the person know that you're there for them. Let them know no matter what, you are there for them, that you will talk to them, whether it's about that relationship or whether they just need you to listen, no matter what. Offer to help them. Offer to help them with whatever they need. Even if they don't want to get out right then and there, even if they don't want to get out right now, offer to help them with whatever they need, whether it's someone to talk to, someone to vent to, whatever it is they need. Support the person's choices. So you may not agree with the relationship that they're in, but maybe at that point in time, it's not okay for them to get out and it's not safe for them. So you need to support them in the moment and support them no matter what. Because when you're in an abusive relationship, it's really hard to just say, I'm out. I'm getting out of this relationship. So support them no matter what. If they stay and when they go.